Now, this is not anything, I don't know, rare or unique that bees will build their comb down below the box. But what is unique about this one is that 3 days ago when I came out here, this hive was getting robbed out. And I've never seen that before, a hive getting robbed out with the comb being built down on the bottom. And you can see how far down they've dropped this comb. This is like a whole nother deep, but it's down below the hive. And these bees were being robbed out, and they actually abandoned the inside of this box and came down here. Let me show you. I'm gonna pop this top box off. We were getting ready to harvest this honey, and 3 days ago, it started getting robbed out. So this is the third box, and I'll show you. Look at this. Not a speck of honey in there, and the telltale sign of robbing. Chewed out comb. You can see it all. That's the sure sign of robbing. Where this was capped honey, they just chewed it out. They ate all the honey and nectar out of the uncapped section, and then just chewed this out. I'm going to show you. This whole top box, one more thing. It's the same way. It's been robbed out. Look at it, that's a really good example of robbing. The whole frame that was capped out, and now it's all robbed out. So I'm going to pull this box off and see what these brood boxes look like. So here's the bottom box, which was at one time the brood box. And this is what I'm curious about, is to see if there was any brood in here still, because there should be. But there again, completely robbed out. You can tell the brood was right here. Let me pull another frame, see what that looks like. Well, there's no need to. I can see it. It's all gone. Let's see what the bottom box looked like. There too. There's still pollen stores in here, but no brood in any of this. So in essence, this hive, they gave up the inside of the box. Oh, look at this. So here's the sign of the battle that ensued while these bees were getting robbed out. Look at that. Look at all those dead bees in there. So you know this was a fierce activity, and from what I saw, oh, it was just tremendous amount of bees out here. But all these are just bees that were killed during the robbing. And as I scrape away the bees, you can see where they've attached the comb to the bottom of the screen board. Amazing. Let me scrape these things out of here. I don't want that to start rotting. So, I've never seen a hive abandon their hive and move down to external. So I'm going to leave these bees down in here, and come winter time, I don't know, I might even go ahead and just remove these bees and put them into another box and move them. I don't know, I'm not worried about them right now. They're fine right now, so we're just going to leave them alone. Let's go around the back of it and show you. I set this box here because 3 days ago, when all that was going on, I was helpless. I couldn't do anything to stop the robbing. The bees were all on the ground back here. So I set this box up to give them a place to run to, but they didn't run to the box. They stayed and they defended the comb, which is good. So I'm going to show you the what the comb looks like back here as well. I mean, this is a huge hive underneath here. Now you saw the brood. You saw the comb on the top of the screen board, and now you can see on the bottom all the comb. I mean, this is a big hive. There were a lot of bees in this hive, and it's just amazing to me that they're here instead of in the box. Hello, Mr. Red here. Today is June 17th, 2020. Good Time Charlie is with me, and today we're in the St. John's Bee Yard. And if it's June, what do you think we're doing? Well, if you guessed we're pulling honey supers, you'd be correct. Today it's like the culmination of 6 months worth of work. If you look back over the course of the year that we've been going through, we started this process of honey harvesting back in December. It's actually, yeah, in December, January. We started in January. Because starting in January, we do our rotations, where we rotate the bottom box and the top box, switch them up. So we get there, our queen to move up into the bottom and let everything move up, because generally she'll move up into that second box. So we do our rotations in January. Then come February, towards the middle of February, end of February, this year we were actually doing splits right at about February the 20th, 23rd. I think Charlie and I did our first split. So somewhere between end of February to the middle of March, which is generally our go date, March 15th, where we do splits. And that's where we would put in our double screen dividing board. Or this year what I did was I went and was using swarm cells and using the swarm cells to requeen my bottom box that didn't have the queen. So we did that in March and February. And then come in May and June, then we started adding our supers. And that, if you remember, we were doing putting the wax on the frames. And there's most of these boxes, let me see. You can see the little dot circles right here. And these dotted circles indicate the boxes that we wax the frames, where we put the wax on the foundation to build them out. Some of these were done in May, and then 2 weeks later, and I've got a couple of them up here, I did another batch. So I made the circles a little different. Some of them I put ink on them, the ones that I did 2 weeks later. But so we put our frames with the added on wax into that, and you saw some of those videos where the development is. Well, here it is, the middle of June. The nectar flow, the major nectar flow is over. I'm looking at the privet right there. It's already on seed, and I see the tallow. It's on seed as well. So everything is pretty much wound up. You'll always have small stuff going on, but for the most part, our nectar flow is over. And so that's when I'll make our first pull, is right in the middle of June. Plus, I like to get our honey out onto the shelf on the Feast of St. Benedict, which is July 11th. So that way I know I'm working in that time frame where I can process, let our honey settle, and then bottle it as well. But today, Charlie and I are going to be taking our honey supers and bringing them up to the Abbey. And what we use to do that, to remove the bees from our supers, we use what they call a fume board. Now Charlie's made these, and anybody can make these. It's just a board with a piece of felt on it, and that felt enables the honey bandit or honey robber or honey whatever you want to use as the liquid to push the bees out. It's sprayed onto the felt, and then that board then is placed on top of the super, and that smell just pushes the bees out of the super, and then sometimes it'll push them out of the box, and then that enables us to then remove the box without using a leaf blower or anything else, and to then load it up in the truck. Now, remember, I don't use a queen excluder. So some of these, our queen may have gotten into the third box and laid in there. But generally, when you have a strong nectar flow, the bees will push that queen out of there, let that brood hatch out, and then they'll backfill all of the area that the queen was in. But then sometimes, because there's so much honey in that second box, she won't even cross that honey layer to go up into that third box and start laying. So sometimes you'll get just complete boxes full of honey. Well, what we have to do as we're going through our honey supers, we have to separate out the boxes that have had brood laid in them and the ones that haven't had brood laid in, just the honey boxes. Because the boxes that had brood laid in them, those are the ones that moths will come in and start laying in. But the honey supers, for the most part, the moths will leave those things alone. So I'll be able to just stack those things up, and they're good. But when Charlie and I are going through today, we're paying attention to the boxes. When we put our fume board on the box and there's still bees in that super, generally that means there's brood in that super, and those bees are the hive bees, and they won't get off that brood. So it's a pretty good indication of, if there's brood in your box, and Charlie and I will be looking for that today. We'll just look down in the frames. If you see the bees on it, we'll pull that center frame up. If it's full of honey, perfect. If it's got brood in it, well, we'll knock the bees off of it, and then we'll swap up that frame of brood with another frame from that bottom box. So either way, we'll get around the issues of not using an excluder, because in my opinion, it's not just a queen excluder, it's also a honey excluder, because the bees have to go through all that. And I'll include a link on the video as to why the reason why I don't use a honey excluder, because the numbers, they just don't justify it. So by the grace of God, today Charlie and I were hoping to get at least 3 of our yards loaded up. I counted already. We've got 29 honey supers in here. I don't think we're going to get honey out of all 29 of them, but we'll get pretty close. But by the grace of God, we'll get this yard cleaned up and we'll move on to the next one. So follow us along as we do this, and check out what we got going on in these boxes. Let's go, Charlie.
You got it.
I told you we use the fume boards, but we really do use boards, plural. We have 7 of them because it just makes the job go so much faster. And we just start at one end, we start putting the fume boards on top of the box, and we wait maybe 5 minutes. And by the time 5 minutes is up, the board that I began with, we can start checking that and going through that. And as we go, we just rotate these boxes right on down the line. So I like to spray kind of heavy in this stuff, because I want to make sure I push these bees out of there. And I'm particular now to this Honey Bandit stuff, because it smells like wedding cake, and that's what me and Charlie, we always laugh about. Oh yeah, I now feel like eating wedding cake, because it smells like almonds. It really does. That honey the honey robber, oh my gosh, that stuff smells so bad. It just makes your eyes burn just opening up the bottle. This stuff, really pleasant. You don't mind it being in the van with you. Like I say, I put a bunch of it on here. It doesn't hurt, and it probably helps. So with our boards all loaded down with Honey Bandit, we're going to headed over to the hives and pulling off the tops and getting our lids on top of them and pushing those bees out. We have 4 deeps. The way I do our bees, the bottom 2 are for the brood, so I never go into these 2 boxes. These are the bees. Whatever honey is in this box stays with the bees. But anything above that second box, and in this case we have 2 honey supers above it, this is what I harvest. You notice this little circle right here is just a white circle, and then this one has some, well, it's kind of faded off, but there was some marker on it. And that was to tell me which box were the first ones that we wax dipped and which one were the second. These boxes were placed on top of this one probably about 2 weeks after this one was placed on, that I placed this one on it. So we're going to be able to see, you know, how this comb is developed in here. But of course you got to put the fume boards on first. So a couple minutes we'll find out what kind of honey development we got in here. And I got my fingers crossed it's going to be a lot. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to start pulling off the lids and the inner covers and dropping the fume boards on it right now. We're going to go ahead and take our lid off, and I can show you how good these fume boards work. You see that? There's no bees up in the top of here. And the first thing I want to do, even though I know in this fourth box, I know there's not going to be any brood up in here, because she'd have to cross through a whole box of brood. I just want to pull out my center frame, because if the queen did get up in here, she's going to start laying in the middle. And here you go for our first full frame. Look at this. Look at that. A little bit of uncapped right there as well as on the back. But I'm good with that. It's not coming out. It's good. They just haven't gotten around to capping it yet. So we got a box just like this, a full box. So Charlie and I are going to go ahead and grab our little carrier, and we're going to pick this one up and set it over into the truck. So you'll notice when Charlie and I take this box off, we've still got another honey super here. So when we take this off, we're going to put the fume board on top of this one to continue pushing the bees out. These carriers that Charlie's holding right here, these things are really great. And they really do help carrying these loads. And this box is probably going to weigh minimally 70 pounds, minimum. But with 2 people lifting it, it's a piece of cake. And we're going to lift this thing, and we're going to bring it over to our truck. And we set up lids on top of here that we put the boxes in so that we don't have honey mess all over everything. And then we cover it. That box weighs minimally 70 pounds, maybe more. And then to prevent the bees from getting in there, we cover this as well. And we're going to go ahead and just keep on putting on boxes. This box right here, well, let me show you. The frame, it's not capped yet. So because this one's not capped, I don't want to spin this frame out or this box out. I'll leave this entire box onto the, I'll take the 3rd box and drop this one down and let it stay here until October when I come back and pull honey again. Because by then they'll have this all capped out and it'll be ready in October. So I'm just going to move this box over to the side, and once I pull the 3rd box off, we'll just drop this one down. And remember I said I don't use excluder. Well, if you don't use the excluder, our queen can get up there and lay like you see right here.
Read up. Got it.
Now, the other frames, which is these, like these frames right here. In fact, I don't think I'm even going to take this box right here because I've got 4 frames that have the brood on it. pull the box in October. But normally, when I get a box that has the brood on it, so like this brood, some of it's already hatched out. It's already hatched out. But what I'll do is I'll take this frame, pull the box off, and just take an outside frame from this bottom box and swap it up. But since I'm not going to take this box, I'm just going to leave it just like this and pull this box come October. But that's what I do when I get brood. In the third box, I pull whatever frames of brood out of the box, swap up with the frame below it. And that's the real advantage of running all the same equipment, running all deeps. The frames are interchangeable, and you can get around that problem of queen laying in your honey super. One other thing I want to say about this box, I requeened this hive because the bees, they were just really mean bees, and I requeened this box with one of the queens that JP, the Dirt Rooster, Shawi, and I, that removal that we did in Slidell. And man, these bees are so nice. And you can tell that was, I can't remember when we did that. I think that was in May that we did that removal. So they've drawn out the comb really nicely in the boxes. And I would have taken the box, but they had that brood in it. I don't need the honey. We'll just leave it in there until October. How you like that? Our Lady of Guadalupe watching over our bees, huh? I don't know who put this here, but I like it. So I'm leaving it out here. But I want to show you what Charlie and I discovered as we've been doing the removing of the honey supers. It's when you pop the lids and the inner covers, the bees just charge at you unless you have smoke. And we were using smoke to calm them down. But quite by accident, we found a simpler way in that we don't have to use smoke. And let me show you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lift this lid and pop the inner cover and show you the amount of bees that come out of here. And then I'm going to go over to that hive, lift the lid, and then I'll show you what I'm going to do different. So we're going to lift our lid. Well, we didn't get all, so you'll pop this out, well, here comes the bees. So here comes the bees. A lot of times, as soon as you pop the lid, boy, the inner cover is full of bees. So you lift the lid, and here comes the bees, right? So at this point, we slap on our fume board on top of that. Or we puff a lot of smoke in there to subdue them. But what we've been doing is, and I'll show you this side. So we'll lift up our cover, and there you go. Look at all the bees on the cover right here. So if you can imagine how many bees are on the inner cover right here, when I would pop that lid, the amount of bees that come out here would be tremendous. So what we do, and of course your inner covers have to have a hole in that. What we do is we slap our fume board onto it like that, right on top of the inner cover, and we're going to wait a minute. Now, how do you know your fume board is working? All you have to do is listen to the bees. You hear that hum? That's a sound of an unhappy bee. They are running right now. All right, now it hasn't even been a minute, so now we're going to take off our cover. Those are the unfortunate bees that couldn't find the hole, but you notice they flew right out of there. And now we're going to lift off our inner cover, and there's still going to be a lot of bees here, but even with just that little amount, there's hardly any bees. And now we can then put on our fume board and drive out the rest of the bees. It really works great, and we don't have to be slowed down with the smoker, and we don't need to put smoke on the bees. So just a little trick that we've learned, share that with you. Well, here it is. 115 honey supers, and they're all deep supers. And guess what? I did it all by myself. That's right. Get in here, guys. Come here. There's no way I could have done this. There's no way. Charlie helped me for 3 days. Every day Charlie's out. we started at 6 o'clock in the morning. Every day was Charlie. Charlie was here until we finished. And Richie shows up this morning to help finish us off this morning. I'm telling you. And then yesterday we had Charlie's grandson, Stephan, was here yesterday. So we got all our honey boxes in, and tomorrow we process it. So that's all I got for you. Charlie, you got anything to say?
Oh, what a day it's been. What 3 days it's been. 3 days it's been.
We've been crying like little girls. And look, it's hot out here. It's 90 degrees in the afternoon. That's why we were starting at 6 in the morning, but it didn't matter. This is a lot of work getting all these things in here.
Sure has been. Thanks for watching.
Keep on watching. We'll be making more.
God bless.
Mr. Ed, Charlie, and Richie. Say it, Richie.
We're out of here.
There you go.
Thank you.